Whoever said that life sometimes is very unfair was very right. And sometimes we can also agree with that kind of a saying, because many things that we go through hell, it's only God who can understand well. Sometimes we go through ups and downs of lives, tears of rejections, tears of where we are and we are not sure of. But at the end of the day, we see God in each and every aspect of our lives. I don't know whether you've ever gone through pain in your life. I don't know whether you have a scar in your life because of the situation that you were once in. I don't know how you dealt with that pain. And I don't know whether pain has its own medicine. Today we'll be having that and much more. And we are graced to have Faith, who will share with us her story, and she will talk to you and give you hope so that you may bring back the lost smile. So join me as we discuss this and much more. And I believe at the end of it, you will smile and say thank you to the Lord. My name is Kagame Barnett. Faith, how are you? Can you open the box for us?
Bernard, I will. This dissection of the foundation and the shake-up is a long story, but I'll just hint here and there for the sake of the listener today. Um, about 5 years ago, 5 to 6 years ago, I lost about 4 members of my family. And it was not a road accident, it was through sickness. And then sometimes when I look back, because now over time God has anointed my discernment to be able to understand some of the things that happened, and I no longer ask him why it had to happen. And by the time you end up to a situation where your why is being answered, you have an intimacy with your maker, with your God. And whatever pain you have gone through, whatever tears you have cried in the past, you start to see them as a very rich soil where God has now planted you and restored you again. So my sister fell sick,
Your biological sister.
my biological sister, and she was a medic. She was a great girl. We had grown together. We had gone to the same school, and she started falling sick. And after many checkups and signs and symptoms, the very last diagnosis actually gave us a result saying that she was still suffering from stomach cancer. And she was admitted in one of the...
At what stage?
And so when my mom realized that we have a sister who is unwell, she came all the way from up country to come and see her. And when she saw her, at the back of her mind, she was very disturbed. And when she went back home, she fell into depression. And little did we know, because things ran so fast, one after the other. And being the firstborn in the family, I would juggle between my mother admitted at an upcountry hospital and my sister admitted at a
Two
hospital
family
here.
members,
Two
very
family
close.
members, very close to me. And remember, this is happening quite fast. You have no chance to even think about it. You have no time even to understand what is actually
Right.
happening. And things happen so fast.
Right.
I would talk to my mother as I'm leaving hospital in the evening to look at my sister. I was working at one of the corporate organizations in Kenya, Toyota, Kenya.
Right.
And I would, every time I would get a phone call, I would rush to go and see my sister, and probably whatever the doctors required or the nurses that was not available,
Right.
I would rush to go and
Right.
pick it up. And on the other side, my mom is admitted, and I would choose between which day in the weekend to go and see my mom, and the other day to go and spend with my sister
Right.
at the hospital. And things happened very fast. Within 2 months, my mom was deteriorating. And I remember the very last phone call we had, she told me, Faith, Mama Brian,
Mama Brian.
load your credit. I have about 250 because I will need you
250 what?
shillings
Okay.
on your credit to 300 because I will need you, we will need to talk
Okay.
at length. There's something I just want to share with you.
That's now your mother
Now,
telling
now
you.
my mother telling me,
All right.
and she's telling me, as you leave the hospital to see
Your sister.
my Grace, my sister, make sure you call me and let's have a conversation. Just put your phone into a loudspeaker. We will talk all the way until you get home. That is when this conversation will stop. So I load my credit. I tell her, Mom, I have seen her. She is not too well, but we continue to pray and trust upon you. So we have a conversation all the way from the hospital up to where I live.
Okay.
And little did I know
That it
that
was
that was the last conversation
with your mommy.
I was having with my mom. Because after the conversation, she would give me her testimony like 3 times and telling me what she believes in and telling me that she knows that I have a stronger faith than my sister and everybody else in the family.
Right.
That as a firstborn, she can trust me
With all those responsibilities.
with all those responsibilities. And even if there will be challenges ahead of me, she believes that I have known God at a personal level.
Right. Right.
And she sang her favorite song. We sang together. And when I got home, I told her, Mom, I have reached home. And she said, let me speak to my wajuku,
The grandchildren.
the grandchildren. And the last missed call I got the following morning, it was the last call.
Okay.
So she was reaching out to me. So my mom passes on. We lay her to rest. My sister cannot attend. She's in the hospital.
Did you tell the sister?
We told her when it was when we were actually doing it because I was not going to be in the hospital with her. And within that week, I was not available. I had to get a young girl, a house help, who was staying with her at the hospital. So she wanted to understand why I've not been available.
Okay.
And she wanted to understand why when she has called my mom, her phone is off.
2 questions. Very powerful.
Very powerful ones.
Okay.
And I had to take time because my husband told me, you go and explain to her and tell her the truth.
Right.
Because tomorrow we lay mom
mother
to rest. And if we don't tell her, it's going to accelerate
Very.
her condition. And so I had to tell her. And I remember
Did you go with someone else with you, or you just went alone?
I went with someone else.
Okay.
I went with one of her friends. I also went with one of my friends. And I went with a relative also who actually offered to remain behind as we go to lay mom to rest.
Okay, go on.
That hit her very much because in a span of 3 weeks, her condition deteriorated. And she went into a coma. And before she went into a coma, she wasn't talking, But I now can recount that before she went into coma, we spoke. And she told me, it's very hard for me to believe that I didn't go to bury mom. I have not seen her, and I will never see her. And however much I would want to process that, it's difficult. I'm finding it difficult
Right.
in my heart.
Okay.
And after that conversation, she told me she would want to tell me something the following morning.
So you had to come the following
I had
morning.
to come the following.
Did that make, what did you feel, or what came into your mind when she told you that there is something that I want to share with you the following morning?
I never slept, Bernard.
Yeah.
I waited for that morning. I asked God to keep her alive because I would see her heart is torn apart.
Right.
I wouldn't show my flood of tears to her then, but after I would hit the door from her room, I would cry all the way, and I had no peace in my heart. So this morning, I waited. Narita comes, and my husband took me to the hospital in the morning. What we would do, we would leave the house at about 4 in the night. I would go and spend some time with her. Then from the hospital, I would go to work. He would drop me to work, and then he would proceed to go to work.
All right.
And sometimes when my sister was in her lowest moment, I would not go home. I would spend
the night
with her. So in the morning, my husband would come with the clothes that I need to change
and go to job.
And I would change in the car.
All right.
And then I would go to work. And then in the evening, we would pass by there, and he would just remain in the car. He would come, and then he would leave us and go and just remain in the car.
You must be a very strong woman.
Behind me is a strong God.
Right.
He's actually a strong
and
God.
we believe in him.
We do believe in him.
No matter what.
No matter what. And if there were moments when I clung to God, the way a flea clings to the skin of a human being was that time. And when this morning came, as we were on our way to the hospital, I checked my phone and it had 3 missed calls. One was hers, because when I would get a nap, I would sleep like a log.
Is that true?
So I didn't hear that missed call when she called. And then the others were from the hospital.
That made you think twice.
I still remember that day. Because when I called back, her phone was off. And when I called back the hospital lines, they kept asking me, "Where are you? We are expecting you to come." And I'm asking them, "Is my sister okay?"
Right.
And they're telling me,
"Just come.
Please just come. Please just come." And so we go to the hospital. It's about 5:30 in the morning. We are not around to enter where she was because she was in the private ward.
Right.
Because she was a staff there. And they tell us to wait a little bit. And I'm telling my husband, why at this particular time they're asking us to wait? We have never waited. We have always gone straight to where she is. And we are there up to about 6:30.
Still waiting.
Still waiting.
You must have been disturbed in your mind.
Very disturbed. Very disturbed. And at one time I would break down, and my husband would just tell me, "Please come. Calm down, calm down."
Remember, we are just coming up with how can we handle these painful situations. And I understand that each and every person has a story, but some stories are very painful than others. And that is why we are here, and we want you to be encouraged, even though you might be going through through pain. But I want you to understand, just as faith is believing in God in all these situations, still there is hope that God is still and has not yet done with you.
Yes.
Move on, Faith.
Yes, yes. And so we are around now to go to where
Your sister was.
my sister was. We find her bed is made.
She's not there?
She's not there.
But the bed is
The bed
made.
is made. And I asked the nurse, did you move her
To another room.
to another room? And is she okay? And as I'm finishing that sentence, other nurses trickle into the room, and a doctor comes into the room. And I'm now going to where the nurse is, because I'm on the other side of the bed. And I want to hold her and ask her,
where is my sister?
Where is my sister? What are you not telling me? And I remember breaking down, and then I remember my husband telling me, please don't break down, let us hear what it is. And now the nurse starts to talk, and then the doctor interjects and they says, we are sorry. And I'm asking them, sorry
For
for what? Did my sister fall off the bed and hurt? Is she in for surgery?
Where is she?
Where is she? And the doctor broke the news, and he said, we have lost her.
Hey, remember you had an appointment with her.
I had an
Tomorrow
appointment
morning
with
come,
her.
I want to share with you something.
Yes.
Now we've lost her.
And at this time she's telling me, go home, come tomorrow morning, I want to share something with you. She was actually telling me, go home now, I am okay, I have started my journey, but I'm not going to tell you.
It's like she was telling you, worry no more.
Worry no more.
But in another way that you could not understand.
In another way that I could not understand. So she's actually telling me, come tomorrow morning, but I will be gone.
Okay.
But because I don't want to bid you goodbye, because we never ever say goodbye to one another. Right. We would either hug and say, we are leaving it for today.
Okay.
And the very last missed call that I found that was hers, she was actually telling me, probably, when you come tomorrow morning, you might not find me. Because the doctors told me that time that you left here, it was just a difference of about 45 minutes. And she passed on.
Okay.
And now we could not call you.
It was that very immediate.
It was, yeah. And now we could not call you because you had just left. And we knew if we call you, you'll just come back.
All right.
And so my sister leaves just like that. A span of 3 weeks after laying mom to rest. And she leaves behind 2 children that we had already taken over with my husband. And my husband had already said, I will take care of these children, because my sister would stand in the gap on behalf of my mother-in-law.
Right.
When she would fall sick, if my sister was off duty, and I would call her and tell her we are bringing my mother-in-law to the hospital, mom in the hospital, she would be there waiting. And now she's gone. And so this actually changed my husband in a very great way towards my sister. And now my sister is unwell. She has these 2 children. We have already taken her in to live with us. She is now gone. These children became our children.
Part of your family.
Part of my family, and my husband accepted them.
Right.
wholeheartedly.
Right.
And I remember one time when he went to look for a school for them, and he paid the school fees. He told me, "Don't you ever think about paying the school fees for these
The
children.
responsibility
The
is mine.
responsibility is mine. The day you will pay the school fees, ask them to refund you the money, because I will not allow you to do that." And as I say, things happen very, very fast.
Very fast.
And
Very
the
fast.
end of this year that we have buried my mom and my sister, my husband starts ailing.
Your husband.
Yes, he starts to change. I ask him,
What's not going on?
what's not going on? Is it the pressure of probably these
Is the
two
burden becoming
children?
too
Is the
much?
burden too much? Is there something bothering you? Is there something I am not
Right.
doing? Are you ready to talk it out? And he'll tell me he's okay. I'm okay.
It's the nature of every man.
Everything
Everything is okay even when there is pain.
Even when there is pain.
All right.
And it hit me when he started failing to take his meals properly. He would take a portion of his meals and not finish. He would look a bit withdrawn. And when we went to the hospital, after pushing him so much, because many men don't like the hospital environment at all. And so we go to this hospital one evening when he has spent the night with a lot of pain in his stomach, and he's saying he does not know where he feels the pain from, what
But
he's
he was
suffering
very
from,
weak.
but he's feeling weak, he's not himself. They go and test him and they say he has ulcers.
Okay. But you become too worried because ulcers cannot make you the way he seems to be.
He seems to be. And they do all the tests. He's given the medication. He's told to take the medication for a month. And it's like a bucket of tablets. And he takes the first week and he's almost giving up. He's like, this is too much to take into my body. And remember, he's not able to take his meals very well. And as a woman, as a wife,
you must be bothered.
I took the responsibility
upon yourself.
Upon myself to make sure he takes his medication right for him. And the day I would know I would be the one having the car, I would drive all the way to his place of work
to make sure
he has taken his lunch, and now he's going to take the medication.
Right.
And now over time he got used that I will be doing that, and I will go out of my way to do that. Remember, this is the guy who has worked with me when the phone calls have come from the hospital.
He was there as a strength.
When the phone call came from my mom's hospital and I'm crying, he was there taking me to work. And I remember the junction of Eastern Bypass. Instead of going to work, we just turned and went all the way to Nyeri. And when they are calling, he would take my phone and say, they will now speak to me. Now he's the one.
Now he's weak.
He is weak.
Very down.
And very down. And we started checking for options because I would see he's not changing.
Right.
We took him to one of the best hospitals in Kenya. Two at most.
Two of them.
And they checked him and they said he will require some surgeries, the laser surgeries. They would say some of the veins that take the blood to the liver are rupturing. And they would want to change the medication he is taking. Little did we know that this medication was actually accelerating the situation. And by the time we got a second opinion from doctors who had come from India, who insisted on seeing where he is.
The doctor comes all the way from India
Yes.
just to see your husband.
They have come from India to see other patients who
alright.
are interested in their services. And I got to learn that they are in Nairobi, and we can get an option, a second option,
Right.
from
them.
from what my husband was suffering from. I get the members of the family, his brothers.
Right.
We go and see these doctors. They listen to the doctors. They look at his diagnosis. And we agree, I think we check this option
Right.
because we don't seem to see a change in him.
Right.
Remember, this time he is admitted
In the hospital.
in the hospital. I have not told him.
And the situation is not changing.
The situation does not change. Every day I wake up and I go and see
Still
him.
the same.
I say, this is not my husband. I see something is not.
Is he talking?
Right.
Is he communicating?
Yeah, we are talking.
All right.
We are communicating. But deep down in my heart, as a woman who has wisdom, I can see that something is not adding up.
Right.
So even as we are getting the second option, we have not told him. Because we don't want to break the news to him that he is not getting better.
Right. Because anything could happen.
Because anything could actually happen. And after the doctors from India insist on going to see him at the hospital, I remember one doctor pulling me aside and telling me, I don't think they're giving him the right
medication.
I don't think he's getting the right help. And I remember screaming my head off. In fact, one of the nurses had to come and find out what is happening. And so we left the hospital in a rush. I went through.
So they even didn't go
husband's.
To see your husband?
They saw him.
But that's when they decided to tell you that they're
that's
not
when
giving
they decided
you the right
to,
attention.
Yeah,
okay.
This is not the right help. It's not the right medication. You will need to get this man to India, like today. In fact, they kept asking me, is he your husband? And I told them, yes, he is. You will need to get him help quickly. Immediately. As soon as you can. As soon as we can. This time I'm working for a corporate organization. My cover is almost exhausted. His cover is almost exhausted. I'm actually at the point where I'm pleading with my employer to add a little bit more, because I'm not too sure how long he will be in the hospital. Right. And now this option of taking him into a foreign country, India, has come.
And it requires a lot of
money.
And
it requires a lot of money. And I still don't remember how I was able to handle this.
Right.
Because after the family agreed this is the way to go, a committee was set up quickly, and we did a fundraiser that was able to put together about 2.5
Kenyan shillings.
But we needed about 6.5 to 7 million.
All right.
Because remember, their diagnosis actually gave us the truth that he actually needs a portion of his liver cut off where the damage has happened, and a fresh portion of liver attached to his, because the liver grows. Did you know the liver grows again? The liver grows again. A healthy portion of the liver attached to a portion that is not healthy,
right,
can cause the liver to start functioning well again. And so we had to get a young man from his family who was calling him uncle, who had been tested in Kenya to confirm that he can actually give a portion of his liver
to the uncle. And
so we traveled with him to India. Right. So 2.5 with a sick husband, and another young man.
And that's another added expense.
Thank you for saying that. An added expense. We are not even halfway the amount that we are required.
Right.
But with this little amount, I have told the family whether it is enough or not, I am going with him to get help. Because I don't see my husband changing.
Right.
And we go to India, we get the admission. They start monitoring him. They do tests on him. They do tests on this young boy. And he's found to be okay. My husband is found to be okay. But he's weak. They have first to detoxify him of the medication he has taken. Because he had taken quite a lot of it. And it had done more damage to his internal organs. And we are there, it's 2 months now. We were supposed to be there for 3 months. It's 2 months, nothing has happened.
Nothing.
Remember, we are living there, we are eating.
In a foreign land.
We have rented a hostel. We have not even paid a deposit because I've told the landlord, I have a bill to pay. I have my husband here. We don't know how long we are going to be here. Instead of I committing this amount of money to the rent, allow me to commit it to the hospital bill, so that the tests that are required to be done.
All right.
And remember, this time I still have a very huge wound within my heart.
I know.
I lost my mom.
You've lost your mommy and your sister. Now you are in another dilemma.
I'm in another dilemma. I have not even grieved.
Right.
I have not even reconciled myself with that they are no longer going to be there.
Right.
I can't call my mom to tell her this is what I am going through. And remember, the loss of my sister and my mom has started to take toll on my dad.
Right.
And before I went to India, I could see the fear in his eyes.
Your father now.
My dad. To an extent that he is not able to tell me that he is really worried that now I have another burden here that I have to carry. And remember, we have moved him from up country. My husband has said, let him come and live here.
Right.
I want to see him. Because I don't want him to start now processing the loss alone.
Have you ever worried about the existence of God, even when you are swimming in dilemma?
Yes.
Do you even question God and his care and his tender mercies as he's claimed to be? At the end of it all, where do you turn to? At this particular juncture, you've lost a mother, you've lost your dear sister. Now you are facing another huge mountain ahead of you. Where do you turn to? Is God near when you are crying? Is he available when you need him? Let's move on, Faith.
And I remember the day we were to leave to go to India. I left my dad at home.
Right. Very worried man.
A very worried man. And I remember his prayer and saying...
So he prayed for you?
He prayed for me and for us. And he said, I know this God that I have served for many years.
And you had told me before that he was a reverend with Anglican Church.
He was a reverend canon with the Anglican Church. He had retired.
Right.
And he would use his time when he has the energy to do hospital chaplaincy.
Right.
Hospital chaplaincy means you visit hospitals
and
praying for the sick.
Right. And now he's here praying for his very own.
Very own. And he is here having witnessed the loss of his loved wife and a daughter that he loved.
Right.
He would call him Dr. Grace. And now here I am on my journey to go
to India,
seeking help in India with my husband. This son of his who took over his firstborn daughter.
And the daughter's responsibility.
And you can imagine what was going through in his mind.
A lot.
A lot.
Very.
very, very weighty thoughts in his mind.
Right.
And so we learned in India. I have taken over the responsibility of everything.
Right.
I am the one running around with the energy.
Mhm.
My husband can't. He's growing weak by day. We are admitted in this hospital. The environment is different. The food is different.
And the language as well.
The language is different. No member of your family. The only member I have of the family is this
Right.
young boy. And because he is not requiring the surgery, then he would remain
In the hostel.
at the hostel. And then he would come sometime and we would spend, and then we would go back to the hostel. And now my husband starts to deteriorate. In the second month.
Did you regret at that particular time why bring him into India?
I had lots of regrets, and at the same time, I am thanking God
Right.
for activating my faith to be able to see a way out and bringing him this far to get help.
Right.
And I'm telling God, if you have brought us this far, I'm sure you're not short of miracles.
Right. Yeah.
You will still do a miracle for us, a miracle of healing. And I remember very, very rarely would I find sleep. Because if I'm not at the hospital, I would be at the hostel praying and telling God to turn around.
God is good
the
that
situation.
in all this situation,
Yes.
He was there for you
Yes.
and with you to give you strength and courage to face the situation.
Yes. Because if it were not for God, I wouldn't manage to call home every other day.
Right. Right.
To call the family members. I didn't have even the energy to call. Especially when every day I would see today there is a change, but tomorrow there is no change.
Right.
And until that time when the doctors called me, because the good thing about the Indian doctors, they call you and explain to you the situation as it is, bit by bit.
Bit by bit.
Especially when they start seeing there is no change, or the change that they are expecting is not what you are expecting, and you are asking them questions.
A lot of them.
A lot of them. And at one point, they called me to say they will need to start dialysis.
Hey, how? Okay.
Remember, we came in for
Right.
the liver. And
Now they're talking of dialysis.
dialysis. And I have to find a way of explaining to my husband our next step. And the doctors are finding a way of having to sit him down and tell him, this is our next stage. And they come, they try to tell him, they are unable.
Okay.
And I have to be the one
To explain.
to him so that now they can come. So I start explaining to him, and I tell him the medication we took
has to be changed.
Has to change. And it will change in a way we will have to have the blood cleansed.
Okay.
And he does not get it.
He cannot.
He does not get it.
He even doesn't understand.
He doesn't get it at all.
Okay.
The doctors come and they explain to him that we are to do a process called dialysis. And he does not understand it. Until now, we start doing it practically. And in the first session, he seems okay.
Okay.
He seems okay. He wakes up a little bit stronger. But towards the second session, he calls me and he says, Mom, come, sit here. And I sit down on his bed, and I'm looking at him. Uh, he wants to say something, but he is not. He's choosing his words. And I tell him, you don't want to give up. You don't want to give up. And he says, I'm not giving up. And I tell him, you know, God loves you very much.
Was he a
says
believer just as you were?
he was not a believer. But at this particular time, I usually say, after this conversation, my husband believed.
All right.
Because he confessed
Immediately after the conversation.
within the conversation. And I'm telling him, you know, God loves you. And he says, I know he loves me very much.
Right.
And I tell him, you know, God has healed you and he will heal you. And he says, yes, I know he will heal me. And he has healed me. And I tell him, and do you know that God already saved you?
Okay.
Long time ago, 2,000 years ago. And he says, I know. Even he died on the cross for my sake.
Right.
And I know he has saved me. And all this time, I notice the ring on the finger. He is
Rolling it.
lowering it. And I keep telling him again, I hope you're not giving up the day. And he says, I can't give up. And
He removes
he removes this ring and he says, keep it for me.
But why?
And I tell him, that is my ring. That ring has my name.
Why remove it?
On it.
Why should I keep it? You
Why
are
should
the
I
one who
keep
is
it?
supposed
You
to
are
keep
the
it
one
for
who
me.
is supposed to keep it.
All right.
I have yours
And you
in
have
my
mine.
finger.
Okay.
And you have mine.
Okay.
So why are you saying I keep it?
You started worrying.
Ah,
Keep it for me.
keep it, please, keep it for me. I will ask it from you. I just want to rest a bit.
Okay.
And I'm feeling cold. My legs, I'm feeling a little bit cold.
So cover me.
Just cover me and then don't go.
What is now ringing in your mind?
Just sit here. I am like, this guy is giving up. I'm telling him, we have dreams.
We have not fulfilled them.
We are not in Kenya. We are not in the hospital that
But he tells you,
he
cover
says,
me.
He just cover me. Please keep this ring. You show it to me, I show him. Here it is. He says, put it in your finger. And I can't fit because his fingers were a bit thinner, mine were. And I put it on this ring.
Right.
And I tell him, you can't give up.
You're sensing something.
I have said, I am not giving up. We have children back at home. We have dreams. We have plans.
We have not fulfilled our
We
plans.
have not even fulfilled our plans. And he says, I just said I want to
rest a little bit.
A little bit.
Cover me.
He just cover me. I will wake up.
Should that be the end of it?
And I have still kept the ring. He's not woken up. He has not woken up.
Okay.
It's about 6 years.
So that was the end of it.
He went into a coma after that. The doctors came after an hour or so. They came. They were coming for the usual checks. Remember, he told me he wants to rest.
And he was feeling cold.
I can see he is breathing. He's okay. The doctors have come for their checks. They have checked him. They think everything is okay. And then they tell me, you've been sitting here for about 3 days.
Just go and have a rest.
You've not even taken a bath. When do you refresh? You are a woman.
In other words, they are telling you, just go and
go and refresh.
Freshen up.
And I'm like, I don't want to.
But I need to be near my husband.
I need to be with him. For some reason, for the last 4 days, I had not left on the side of his bed.
Okay, all right.
And I decide to go. And when I come back, they tell me my husband uh, fell into coma.
Okay.
And that means I'm not going to speak to him. I'm asking the doctors. Does that mean now
There is no
there
conversation
is
at
no
all.
conversation? And they would say, we can see he is moving his hands and he is moving his legs. And sometimes when we speak to him, he can identify a voice.
Okay.
And Bernard, that was the last time I had a conversation with my husband. Because after 3 or 4 days, my husband left forever.
Friends, it is very painful. Sometimes you don't even understand what next. But when God comes in, He gives you joy and hope,
Yes.
and He levels all the mountains because He's a just God. And I believe so far you've seen God in each and every aspect of your lives. Faith has just lost another person, not only a mere person, but her husband, the father of her boys and children, girls, the father who has been there for her in ups and downs, now in a foreign country. What will happen?